I still remember the way my son looked at me that morning like I was an inconvenience, not his father. The hall was filled with laughter, music, and expensive decorations I had paid for, yet I felt like a stranger in my own family's celebration. I was sitting in the second row, dressed in a simple gray suit. My late wife's ring hung around my neck, a small reminder of what real love once looked like. Then my daughter walked over, leaned close, and whispered words that burned into my chest. "Dad, please don't say anything during the ceremony, okay? We don't want any. Awkward moments, just sit and smile. Just sit and smile." Those 4 words hit harder than any slap. I looked up at her, the same daughter I'd carried on my shoulders, the same girl I stayed awake for during her exam nights. But now, she couldn't even look me in the eye. My son was across the hall, laughing with his fiancée's parents, the same people who once told him I was too old-fashioned. To handle business matters, when I stood to congratulate him, he gave me a quick, forced hug and said under his breath, "Dad, please, don't make a scene today. Just let us handle things. I had handled everything, the company, the house, the savings, just so he could have a comfortable life. But in that moment, surrounded by strangers who pretended to care, I realized something: I wasn't part of his life anymore. I was just the wallet that had fed him, the name he now wanted erased, so I sat quietly as they wanted, but my silence wasn't weakness. It was the calm before a storm they didn't see coming, because while they thought they'd humiliated me, I was holding something far more powerful than their approval, my will. And when the time was right, I would stand up in front of everyone and show them that respect isn't inherited. It's earned. As the music played and guests danced, I sat quietly in my seat, watching a world I no longer belonged to. Everyone looked so happy, champagne glasses clinking, designer dresses sparkling under the lights. The kind of perfection money could buy, but beneath it all, I could feel the distance, a wall built by greed, pride, and maybe embarrassment. I saw my son, Adam, walking hand in hand with his bride, Samantha. She was beautiful, yes, but there was something cold behind her smile, something calculated. She didn't just marry my son, she married his inheritance. The photographer gestured for the family picture. I stood up eagerly, my heart fluttering. Maybe this was my moment to feel part of it again. But as I approached, Samantha's mother waved a manicured hand and said with a polite but sharp tone, "Oh, maybe just the young couple for this one, Mr. Malik." I froze. My son didn't say a word. He just smiled awkwardly, as if agreeing with her. The photographer clicked, flash after flash, and I stood there, holding the corsage I had brought for the bride, forgotten and invisible. The humiliation burned. I forced myself to step back, sit down, and hide my trembling hands. It wasn't about the photo, it was about being erased. I remembered how Adam used to run into my arms after school, his tiny voice yelling, "Papa." Now, he couldn't even make eye contact. I took a sip of water and looked around. My daughter, Aisha, was busy with the wedding planner, too occupied to notice me. The only person who spoke to me kindly that night was my driver, Naveed, who came to ask if I needed anything. That's when I noticed something strange: Adam's fiancée whispering to a man in a black suit, standing near the back. The man turned slightly, and my heart skipped. It was Mr. Khan, my old lawyer. What was he doing there? With her, I hadn't seen Mr. Khan in nearly 2 years. After my retirement, I had asked him to handle some personal files, my company shares, house deeds, and a few confidential documents. He was a good man, loyal, and I trusted him. But seeing him here, quietly whispering to Samantha, made my stomach twist. I stood up and started walking toward them, but halfway through the crowd, Adam intercepted me with that fake smile he'd perfected. "Dad, there you are. Why don't you relax, huh? It's my big day." He put a hand on my shoulder, firm, controlling, and subtly turned me back toward my seat. "Who invited Mr. Khan?" I asked calmly. He hesitated. "Oh, don't worry about it, Dad. Just some business formality. You know how weddings are. A business formality. At his wedding." He walked away before I could say another word, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. During the dinner, I overheard fragments of conversation, Samantha's father boasting about future control of our company, her mother laughing about how young people today are taking over from the old guard. Every word cut deeper than the last. I looked around again. My so-called family was celebrating my own disappearance. They didn't want me there as a father, they wanted me out of the picture. The laughter echoed in my ears as I glanced at the head table. My seat card wasn't even there anymore. Someone had removed it. They had moved me to a corner table, far from the guests of honor. I sat in silence, gripping my cane, forcing myself not to cause a scene. My late wife, Sarah, had always told me, dignity first, no matter how much it hurts. But as I looked at the couple laughing with my lawyer, I realized this wasn't about dignity anymore. It was about betrayal and whatever they were planning. It involved me. The master of ceremonies took the mic. Now, before the couple gives their vows, let's have a few words from the father of the groom. The hall turned. Eyes fell on me. My heart thudded maybe they'd finally remembered. Maybe my son had told them I'd say a few words. But before I could rise, Samantha's mother rushed up and whispered something to the MC. He cleared his throat. Apologies. Actually, we'll have the best man speak instead. The audience clapped. I sat back down slowly. Adam didn't even glance my way. The best man gave his speech jokes laughter, all about how Adam built a success with the support of his beautiful fiancée and her amazing family. Not one word about me, not one mention of the years I worked 2 jobs to pay his tuition. I felt a lump in my throat, my eyes burned. I reached into my coat pocket and felt the cool edge of an envelope, the sealed copy of my will. I always carried it, just in case. They thought I was finished, that I'd fade away quietly. But as I looked at them, my son, his greedy bride, her scheming parents, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't leave this hall humiliated. If they wanted me to stay silent, I'd do the opposite. Not yet, not now, but when the time was right, I'd stand before every single one of them and speak the truth, not just about love or betrayal, but about who really owned everything they were celebrating tonight. 2 weeks before the wedding, Adam and Aisha came over to my house to gather something that hadn't happened in months. They brought pastries, smiles, and that sudden sweetness adult children wear when they want something. "Dad, you're looking great," Adam said, setting a box of chocolate eclairs on the table. "You've been taking your walks, right?" I chuckled softly. "You sound like your mother." But the warmth faded quickly. They exchanged a look that silent signal siblings share when they're about to corner a parent. Aisha pulled out a folder from her handbag. "So, Dad, we talked to Samantha's family and the accountant. There are a few tax adjustments we need to do before the wedding." I frowned. "Tax adjustments?" Adam jumped in. "Yeah, small stuff. Just transferring the company shares to my name temporarily so the merger goes smoothly. Legal formality, nothing major." I blinked. "Merger? What merger?" He laughed. "Dad, don't worry about it. It's just the business evolving. You taught me to think big, right?" They slid the papers toward me, and my stomach turned. My company's name was printed on the header of the business I had built from scratch, the one your mother and I used to dream about during sleepless nights. "Adam," I said carefully, "why does this say transfer of majority ownership?" "Oh, that. Just legal language." Aisha said quickly, forcing a laugh. "You know lawyers, they make everything sound dramatic." I looked at my children, the 2 people I loved more than life itself. Their faces looked familiar, but their eyes were strangers. My hands trembled as I picked up the pen. "And you're sure this is temporary?" "Of course, Dad. Just sign here and we'll handle the rest." I wanted to believe them, but something in me, maybe the same instinct that helped me survive business, whispered, "Don't sign today." So I smiled, pretended to cough, and said, "Let me read it later tonight. My eyes are tired." Adam sighed, irritated. "Fine, but don't overthink it, okay? You've got to trust your kids, trust." That word stung, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure I could. That night, after they left, I couldn't sleep. The folder sat on my desk like a silent threat. I poured myself a cup of tea and opened it carefully. Page after page, terms I didn't recognize, clauses I hadn't approved, transfer of operational control, exclusive rights, executive authority. By the 3rd page, my hands were shaking. It wasn't a formality. It was a takeover. I called the only person I could trust, my old lawyer, Mr. Rahim, who had handled my affairs before I retired. He answered in his usual calm tone, "Mr. Malik, been a long time." I told him everything. He went silent for a long while, then said softly, "Sir, don't sign anything. I'll come by first thing in the morning." When he arrived, I watched his expression as he flipped through the documents. "Who prepared these?" he asked sharply. "My son said his fiancée's family helped." He exhaled heavily. "These aren't tax adjustments. These are transfer deeds. Once you sign, you lose every right to your company and assets, permanently." My chest tightened. "Permanently?" He nodded. "And not just the company, your home, your investments, even your late wife's trust fund. It's all tied together." I sank into the chair. My children, my blood had planned this. Rahim put a hand on my shoulder. "You need to be careful, sir. There's more going on here than you think." More? He hesitated. "I recognize one of the legal stamps. It belongs to Khan and Associates. Wasn't Mr. Khan your old counsel?" "Yes," I said slowly. "Why?" "Because his signature's on these pages too. He's the witness." My pulse pounded. Mr. Khan, the same man I'd trusted with my confidential files. The same man whispering to Samantha at the wedding. Everything started connecting: the secrecy, the whispers, the fake smiles, and I knew then, this wasn't just a mistake. It was a conspiracy. The next day, I went to my office quietly just to check. I still had my old pass. The guards greeted me with respect. Inside, however, I noticed something strange. Adam's nameplate was already on the CEO door. Mine had been taken down. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. "Sir, Mr. Adam said you were retired officially." "Retired?" I said softly. "Who told you that?" She hesitated. "It was in the internal memo, signed by Mr. Khan." My blood ran cold. Back home, I locked my door and took out the old safe. Inside was my original will, the one that left everything equally between Adam and Aisha, with a portion to my wife's charity. It was time to change that. I called Rahim again. "Prepare a new will, keep it sealed, don't tell anyone," he asked. "And the beneficiaries, sir?" I took a deep breath. "Not my children, not anymore. Half goes to Sarah's foundation, the rest to Naveed, my driver. He's been more loyal than my own blood." Silence, then Rahim said softly, "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Yes, if love can be sold, then loyalty deserves to be rewarded." That evening, I got a message from Adam. "Dad, hope you're not mad about earlier. Remember, we're family. Let's not make things complicated before the wedding." Family? I stared at the word until the letters blurred. I replied simply, "Don't worry, son. I won't complicate anything." And I meant it, because the next time they saw me, I would give them the peace they wanted, just not the way they expected. That night, I sat by the old wooden chest my wife, Sarah, had kept at the foot of our bed. Inside were her things: the silk shawl she wore every winter, her favorite perfume bottle, the letters we exchanged when I used to travel for work. Her photo stared back at me, warm eyes, gentle smile. I whispered, "Sarah, you'd be ashamed if you saw them now." I remembered the day she passed away 5 years ago. She was lying in that hospital bed, weak but still thinking of everyone else. She had held my hand and said, "Promise me if I go first. Take care of them. Don't let money divide them, Malik." I promised, and now I'd broken it, not because I wanted to, but because they had chosen greed over love. Tears welled up as I thought about Aisha. My daughter had always been my soft spot, bright, ambitious, full of compassion. But lately, she'd become colder, more like Samantha's family than her mother. The next morning, she came to visit, all smiles. "Dad, I heard you've been feeling unwell. You didn't sign those documents, right? Adam said you'd take a look." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes were calculating. I said calmly, "Not yet. I'm still reading." She tilted her head, pretending concern. "You really don't trust us, do you?" I sighed. "Trust is earned, Aisha. You and your brother seem to have forgotten that." Her face hardened. "You know, maybe it's time you let go, Dad. You've done enough. Let the new generation take over." New generation. I repeated slowly. Or new owners. She looked away. I didn't mean it like that. But she did. I could feel it. After she left, I sat on the edge of the bed, holding Sarah's shawl. Maybe. I whispered to her picture, letting go doesn't mean surrender. Maybe it means teaching them what they've forgotten. That's when I made the decision. I wouldn't fight them with anger or yelling. I would fight them with silence and a signature they'd never expect. 2 days later, I overheard something that shattered me completely. I had gone to the venue early to check the decorations, one last fatherly gesture. In one of the side halls, I heard laughter. It was Aisha and Samantha. I paused near the door, hidden by the curtain. Samantha said mockingly, "You really think he'll hand over everything without a fight?" Aisha replied, "He will. He's too soft. He still thinks we're innocent kids." Samantha laughed. "Well, by the time he realizes what's happened, the papers will already be signed. Your brother's smarter than he looks." Aisha smirked. "Dad had his time. It's our turn now." The world stopped for a moment. My daughter, my little girl, was part of it too. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. My cane trembled in my hand. I wanted to walk in there, to shout, to demand how they could do this to me. But I didn't. Instead, I turned and left quietly, because now I wasn't just hurt, I was certain. That night, I called Rahim again. Add a confidentiality clause to the new will. Once it's read, it must be made public in front of witnesses. He asked, "What exactly do you plan to do, sir?" I looked out the window at the city lights. I plan to remind them who built this family. They want my silence, they'll get it, but not before they hear my last word. Rahim hesitated. Should I inform the media or authorities just in case? No. I said firmly, "I'll handle this myself, at the wedding." He was stunned. "You're going to do it there?" "Yes," I said. In front of everyone they tried to impress. The night before the wedding, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked through the living room where once laughter echoed, where birthdays and anniversaries filled the air with warmth. Now it felt like a museum, a place that remembered joy but didn't contain it anymore. I poured myself some tea and sat by the window. Outside, the sky was dark, the city glowing faintly in the distance. In my hand was the final envelope, the updated will. It was thick, sealed, stamped, and unbreakable. Inside it was my legacy, rewritten in truth. I thought of Naveed, my driver, a simple man, loyal for 20 years. Never once had he taken a day off without reason. He cared for me like a son should. When I told him I was naming him in the will, his eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't need your money," he said. "You've already given me more than I deserve." I smiled. "Then take it for her, for Sarah. She would have liked you." He bowed his head. "I'll protect it with my life." At midnight, I got a message from Adam. "Big day tomorrow, Dad. Just please don't make anything emotional. We've invited a lot of important people." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, "Don't worry, son. I'll be silent, completely silent." And as I turned off my phone, I whispered to the empty room, "Tomorrow, my silence will speak louder than any speech." The morning of the wedding arrived bright and cruelly beautiful. Sunlight streamed through my window as if mocking the storm brewing inside me. I dressed slowly, a gray suit, polished shoes. My late wife's ring still hanging from a thin chain around my neck. It felt like armor. When I reached the venue, I noticed something strange immediately. The parking space near the entrance, which used to be mine, had been reserved for the bride's family. My nameplate was gone. I smiled quietly. It didn't hurt anymore. It confirmed everything I already knew. Inside, the guests bustled with excitement. I saw Adam and Samantha posing for photographs, her parents beaming proudly beside them. No one even noticed me walk in. The event planner directed me toward the back row. "Sir, your seat is near the exit." The exit? They had placed me right where people would leave. I nodded politely and took my seat. Naveed stood quietly nearby, keeping a watchful eye. He was the only person who treated me with respect that day. As the ceremony began, I watched my son, my only son, stand before the altar, smiling for cameras, reciting vows about honor, respect, and family. Each word sounded like poison. I could feel Sarah's presence beside me, as if she were whispering, "Patience, Malik, just a little longer." When the officiant said, "If anyone has any objections, speak now or forever hold your peace," I almost laughed. Not yet, I thought, not now. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 4:30 p.m. Exactly 1 hour before the dinner speeches. That was my moment. Because hidden in my coat pocket wasn't just an envelope, it was the key to everything they thought they'd stolen. Dinner began with applause, camera flashes, and music. The tables were draped in gold silk, chandeliers glowing like stars. I sat at my little corner table, watching it all, the laughter, the lies, the illusion of perfection. Adam came over looking irritated. "Dad, you're sitting too close to the walkway. The photographers might need space. Can you move a bit further back?" I stared at him. "You mean further out of sight?" He sighed. "Dad, please don't start. Just enjoy the night, okay? Enjoy the night." They had stripped me of my pride, my position, my voice, and now they wanted me to enjoy it. When it was time for speeches, Samantha's father stood first. "I must say," he boomed into the mic, "we are so proud of Adam. He's taken on great responsibilities. With the family business now officially under his name, he's ready for a new chapter." The crowd clapped. I froze. Under his name. So they had already done it, forged my retirement, taken my company, stolen my life's work. My heart raced, but I stayed calm, because they didn't know that the real legal ownership had already changed 2 days ago, to Sarah's foundation. As the applause died down, the MC smiled and said, "And now, a few words from the father of the groom." My children exchanged nervous glances. Adam shook his head subtly. The MC frowned. "Oh, sorry, I've just been told the father wishes to stay silent tonight." The crowd murmured. I stood slowly. "Actually," I said, voice steady, "I've changed my mind." Adam's face drained of color. "Dad, sit down." I ignored him and stepped toward the mic. The hall fell into silence. I smiled faintly. They told me to stay quiet tonight, but I've been quiet for too long. I took a deep breath. "You see, this wedding isn't just the start of a new family," I said. "It's also the end of an old illusion, the illusion that blood always means loyalty." Gasps rippled through the room. Adam hissed under his breath, "Dad, stop this right now." I continued. "For months, my children have been trying to take control of everything I built, my business, my home, my life's work. They forged documents, used deceit, and thought I'd never find out." The crowd buzzed. Cameras turned. The bride's family looked horrified. Samantha's father stood up. "This is highly inappropriate." I nodded calmly. "You're right, but so is stealing from your own father-in-law." Then I pulled the envelope from my pocket. I came prepared. "This," I said, raising it, "is my final will and testament, and since everyone is gathered, it's the perfect time to read it aloud." Mr. Rahim, my lawyer, stood up from the back. He walked to the front with quiet authority, unfolded the document, and began to read. "According to the last will of Mr. Malik, dated 3 days prior to this event." He paused, glancing at me. I nodded. "The entire estate, valued at approximately $10 million, including all shares of Malik Industries, residential properties, and investments, is hereby bequeathed to the Sarah Malik Foundation and Mr. Naveed Ahmed in recognition of their loyalty and integrity." The hall exploded. Adam shot to his feet. "What, this is a joke?" Rahim continued, unshaken. "Furthermore, all previous wills are void. Any unauthorized transactions or signatures involving Mr. Khan or associated parties are being investigated for fraud." Gasps. Shouts. Samantha's parents turned pale. Aisha's voice broke. "Dad, you can't do this." I looked at her gently. "I already did, my dear. I just wanted you all to hear it together." Adam slammed his fist on the table. "You're ruining my life." I stepped closer, eyes firm. "No, son. I'm teaching you that respect can't be bought and love can't be faked." Silence fell. The music had stopped. The lights flickered. I turned to leave, my cane clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, chaos erupted, shouting, arguments, disbelief. But I didn't look back. For the first time in years, I walked with peace. When I stepped out of that wedding hall, the air outside felt different, lighter. The chaos behind me faded into muffled shouts, the kind of noise you hear when people's masks finally fall off. For years, I had carried guilt, shame, and heartbreak. But that night, I carried peace. Peace doesn't come from revenge, it comes from truth finally being spoken aloud. Naveed opened the car door, his face trembling with emotion. "Sir, you actually did it." I smiled. "No, Naveed, we did it. You stood by me when my own children turned away." We drove home in silence. The house was quiet, but not empty anymore. For the first time, I felt Sarah's presence everywhere, not as a memory, but as a force. I looked at her portrait on the wall and whispered, "You were right. They needed to see who they've become." Later that night, my phone rang. Adam, I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. His voice was trembling. "Dad, what did you do? Everyone's talking about it. You embarrassed us in front of the entire city." "I didn't embarrass you, son," I said softly. "You did that yourself." He went silent. Then his tone hardened. "You'll regret this. Samantha's family will walk away the moment they realize you have nothing left to offer." I interrupted. There was silence again. Then a faint click. He hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel anger. Just sadness, the kind that feels too deep for tears. The next few weeks were a blur of headlines and whispers. Businessman exposes children's betrayal at son's wedding. It became the talk of the city. Samantha's parents pulled out of the marriage alliance. The bride's family demanded their investment, back the luxury cars, the jewelry, even the down payment on the new house. Adam tried to salvage things, but when the truth about the forged documents came out, he lost everything: his position, his reputation, his friends. Aisha tried to reach me once. She came to my gate, eyes red, voice shaking. "Dad, please, we were wrong. We got carried away. Can't we fix this?" I looked at her gently. "You can't fix something that never should have been broken, Aisha. Trust isn't a vase you glue back together. It's the air you breathe once it's poisoned. It takes years to clear." She sobbed quietly, then left. That was the last time I saw her. Naveed, meanwhile, stayed. Together, we built something new, a foundation that provided housing and education for widows and underprivileged children. The Sarah Malik Foundation. Every brick we laid carried her name. Every smile I saw reminded me that loyalty and kindness don't come from blood, they come from character. A year passed. One evening, as I was tending to the rose garden, I heard footsteps at the gate. It was Adam. He looked older, thinner, tired, broken in ways that money could never fix. He walked toward me slowly. "Dad." I didn't say anything. Just kept pruning the roses. He took a shaky breath. "You were right. Samantha left her family. They said I was useless without the company. I lost everything." I looked at him finally. His eyes were swollen, his voice hollow. "I lost my son long before that wedding, Adam," I said quietly, "but it wasn't the money that took him away, it was pride." He nodded, tears running freely now. "I thought you'd given up on me." I shook my head. "I gave up trying to convince you, but I never stopped loving you." He fell to his knees weeping. "I'm sorry, Dad, for everything." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "The world teaches us to chase gold. I just wanted you to see that the real treasure was family." We stood there for a long time, father and son, surrounded by roses and silence. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words. It just needs time. Months later, I sat on my porch, the evening breeze carrying the scent of rain. The foundation was thriving. Children played in the courtyard, their laughter echoing like music. I looked at the sky and whispered, "Sarah, our story had pain, but it also had purpose." People often ask me if I regret what I did exposing my family, taking away their inheritance. I tell them this: I didn't take it away. I simply gave it to the ones who still remembered what love and loyalty meant. Family isn't defined by blood or last names. It's defined by actions, by who stands beside you when the world turns its back. When you build something, whether it's a business, a home, or a legacy, protect it not with walls, but with values, because the walls will crumble, but the values, they'll outlive you. That's what I tell the children at the foundation. That's what I whisper to the photograph of my wife every night. And that's what I'll leave behind: not an empire of money, but a garden of truth, loyalty, and second chances.